Welcome back to yet another tutorial where we shall be looking at what Laravel is, the key features of Laravel as a framework, and also we shall also look at why developers choose Laravel over other frameworks. So to begin with, of course, I'll first define what Laravel is. Laravel is an open source PHP framework which is available for you to use. So it was developed simply to ease the development process of web applications. So this Laravel framework was introduced by a guy called Taylor Otwell. It was first released in 2011, but it became more stable in 2013. So Laravel gives you freedom to develop applications with ease because it makes development faster, easier, and more organized. So you're going to realize that as you're using Laravel, since it is a framework, instead of developing everything from scratch, you're going to be able to use Laravel so that now some of the things are pre-built for you to use. So Laravel was created because of the messy and unstructured code which was available. So now, by that time, before Otwell thought of developing Laravel, people were doing everything from scratch. Now this code became a little bit unorganized and a little bit messy, because now, assuming you're developing on an application like, let's say, 5 people, so everyone does not have everyone is doing his own things. Like, we don't have a structured way of doing things together. But with Laravel, we follow some structures, as I will be explaining that. Yeah, that's why you are able to see that with Laravel we can achieve that. Now, as I had just explained, that it was introduced in 2011, but it became more stable by 2013. So how Laravel works, it works on a structure known as the MVC. Now there is a framework called MVC where we have the models, the views, and then the controllers. So I'll dive deep in that as I'll be explaining how the Laravel structure looks like. Then the other thing I can talk about are some of the core features of Laravel. So Laravel, being a framework, it has its core features. For example, we have what we call the routing as one of its features. So Laravel has got what we call routing, where this is an easiest way of accessing web pages through the Laravel routes. So maybe if someone is visiting your application, for example, and he clicks also on the about, so simply there is that routing engine which will always point at whatever page the user is trying to access. So Laravel has that feature known as the routing. And also Laravel has another feature called the eloquent ORM. ORM is object relational mapping. Now, instead of writing SQL queries, with Laravel, you're able to define your data in form of models. So instead of writing plain SQL queries, for example, maybe select all from users, we can instead use some of the pre-built-in functions of Laravel. For example, the user maybe .all. So I'll be explaining that with a real project. Then the other concept is what we call the braid templating engine. Yes, Laravel has got what we call something to deal with the braid templating engine, where we mix two things. That's the HTML, the CSS, and also we are able to look at what we call the PHP. So this one makes like organizing your code a little bit easier, because now with the templating engine, we can even extend. For example, we can declare some data for let's say the code in one file, let's say called master, but we can keep on reusing this same file by extending it to other files where it might be necessary. Then also the other concept, Laravel has got something called the authentication system, where we are able to do the registration, the login, the password resets, and then we are able to save time. Instead of doing that authentication yourself, you can use Laravel to achieve that. Then the other concept is what we call the artisan command line. So Laravel has got a built-in function, and it uses its command line tool for developers. So most of the things that we are going to interact with, we use the command line. For example, maybe if you're creating a model, if you're creating a controller, you have to use a command line. That's where we shall look at something to do with artisan. Then the other key feature is what we call the security feature. Now, this security feature, Laravel protects its application against the SQL injections, the cross-site scripting, the cross-site request forgery. We shall see all that. So security is already inbuilt by default within Laravel. So those are some of the core features. I've just mentioned 6. The first one was the routing system, which I've explained, the eloquent ORM, that's for data handling. We have got something to do with the bread templating engine. These are all some of the features of Laravel. We have the authentication system, where it comes with pre-built authentication for you instead of doing everything from scratch. We have the artisan command line, and then the security features. Now the other question would be, why Laravel is widely used today, or why do you think developers are choosing Laravel amidst all other existing frameworks? Now, the reasons why people are using Laravel: number one, it speeds up development, as I've just mentioned in some of the key features, that it has some of the pre-built-in functions. For example, the authentication. Now, instead of you wasting time to do your own authentication from scratch, Laravel has covered that, giving you room to focus on the business logic than the application, like the code. So with Laravel, we don't focus more on the code, but we focus on the business logic. Then the second concept is that the reason that's why we are using Laravel so much, Laravel has got what we call clean and reusable code. As I've just explained, even using an example of the templating engine. So now, assuming, let me explain it in HTML CSS background. So assuming you already developed your nav, for instance, and you want to reuse this nav on all other pages because it will remain the same, like constant. So what you do, you declare it in one file, but you keep on extending it to the other files wherever you want to use it. So that's what we mean by being reusable. Then the other thing, it has got what we call a large community. So another factor or reason as why Laravel is widely used, it has what we call a huge community. Now, in this, we are meaning those developers who are using Laravel, those that contribute to Laravel. For example, it has got something to do with the good documentation and also tutorials. Because many people are using Laravel, so you're not scared that in case maybe I land into problems with this framework, what should I do? So most of the problems have been handled, have been faced by your earlier developers, and then their solution they have already posted somewhere. So you can simply go there and you'll be able to see how they manage to solve that problem. Then the other thing, it is beginner friendly. Yes, Laravel is one of the easiest frameworks to learn because it tries to mimic what you have already covered. For example, if you're from a PHP background, already Laravel in its controllers it is using PHP. If you're from HTML CSS background, already Laravel has got what we call the views, that bread templating engine, which is using HTML and CSS. Then the other thing, Laravel, what does, it has an active support. For instance, Laravel has gone through a number of versions. For example, right now we are running Laravel 13. By the time you're watching this video, just know that we are using Laravel 13. But you're going to realize that from Laravel, let's say 1.0 like that, to 2 to 3 to 4 up to 13, they have made numerous advancement. And for example, right now they have included in other frameworks. That is to say, we are using React for front end nowadays, which was not the case before. By then we are using Vue, and then let's say the breads. But nowadays, since most of the developers opt for React for the front end, Laravel, since it has an active and supportive community, they have ensured that they keep their frameworks up to date. That's why we choose Laravel amid these other frameworks. Then the other thing is very resource manageable. For example, when you're running a Laravel application, you don't need too much resources. That is to say, the servers where you're going to host, maintenance is not so hard since things are well organized. So you're going to realize that with Laravel, everything is very easy to do. So that's why some of the applications that you're going to see are mostly used by Laravel, like we are using Laravel to develop them. Me myself, I think I've used Laravel since 2020, but I've never regretted, because most of my applications that are on my repo and those that are in production, they are all Laravel applications, and they are running very smooth and very easy. So that's it, what Laravel gives us. So in our next tutorial, we are going to look at the Laravel structure, like the structure of a Laravel application. Yeah, for now, I think we have seen what Laravel is when it was first introduced, the key features of Laravel, and why do you think developers might opt for Laravel amidst other existing frameworks. And in those frameworks, we can talk about CodeIgniter. There are frameworks like Fast API frameworks. There are frameworks like Django. There are frameworks like Ruby. You know, there are very many frameworks, but for us, in this tutorial and in our next episode, we shall be using more Laravel than any other frameworks, and I've explained reasons as to why we are choosing Laravel amidst other existing frameworks.